Alright, as you can see, we're looking under the hood of my 2014 Sierra, and I'm on the passenger side. Now, for the last couple of weeks, I've been receiving a message on my dash that indicates my battery is low. And this primarily happens in cold weather and on startup, but I really don't want to push the envelope any further, okay? Now, we're going to go through the process of replacing the battery, but the manual does recommend a couple of post-installation procedures, and I'm going to link to those down below. Basically calibrating the windows and the power steering and allowing the PCM or the powertrain control module to go into a learning state for your fuel efficiency, okay? We're not going to run through that on the video. I'm just going to link to that in the description down below, alright? First thing we need to do is remove this little brace here that's sitting right above the battery, and I believe these are 1/2 inch. Let me grab a ratchet and a socket. Alright, we do have a couple of helpers out in the garage with us today. We've got Keith here and Connor over here, and they always like to come out and give me a hand. Alright, let's get that battery swapped out. Huh, Keith? Alright, so this engine compartment brace has 3 bolts, one here, and one here. And again, they are 1/2 inch, alright? And although it does look like there are nuts on the back of these bolts, they are welded. So you only need a ratchet and a socket or a single wrench. You don't need to put a wrench on the back side to hold the nuts. And we just set that aside. Alright, next we're going to remove the negative battery terminal wire. Okay, now this is a black wire, and we've got a 10mm nut right there. And I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch ratchet, small extension, and a 10mm deep. And my arms are right in the way, I realize. Okay, and just roll that out of the way here, because we're going to have to lift the battery straight up, so you don't want it over the battery. Now we'll remove the positive terminal. And again, it's a 10mm. Alright, we need a larger socket for this one here. Let me grab that real quick. Alright, so this nut here is 9/16. See, now had I not removed the negative terminal first, I would not want to be touching this with my hands because I would obviously be getting zapped. Alright, let's go ahead and remove this cable. Now I'm looking at this. The manual says to flip this mega fuse box out of the way. But I'm thinking that it's going to be best to remove this terminal as well because this is clamped onto the firewall. But we'll take a quick look at that before we do it. Okay, we'll set that one aside. Alright, so I'm going to remove this nut here. Now this one happens to be a 1/2 inch as opposed to a 9/16 because, you know, it wouldn't make sense to have them all the same. And I just want to do that. I think I could remove it from the firewall pretty easily, but I think this is going to be easier so I don't break that clip. And I'll show you which wire we're trying to get out of the way here. It's this one right here, which kind of runs up to the firewall. And now I can just kind of tuck it out of the way. Alright, now at this point, I'm going to reach my hand down to the front of the battery, or this side of the battery, and try to remove the, there's like a plastic ridge or clip that's holding it down there. There we go. Right there. I'll show you where it is when we get it up out of the way. It's right here. Just got to lift out on that. I had a hard time finding it. Okay. Now we'll just flip that up out of the way. Now we've got to remove the hold down clamp on this side of the battery here. Let me find out what size that is and get a longer extension. Alright, so there's a shot of the bolt we need to remove. It's a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to use a 1/2 inch socket and a fairly long extension. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you me winding that out of the way. So let me reposition the camera here. Alright, so it's probably not necessary to remove the whole piece, but I wanted to give you a shot of it. Basically, This sits on the lip of the battery at the bottom, and then obviously when you tighten it down, it holds the battery in place against the battery tray. Alright, so at this point, I should be able to lift that battery out of there. I may have to finagle it a little bit because of this here, okay? And I am going to stand on something because the truck sits so high and the battery is quite heavy. Alright, so let me see if I can get this out of the way a little bit more. I've got my own wires kind of messing me up here. That's for the power for the aux beam light bar, and I do have a video on that installation, but I didn't really leave myself enough room to get up and over this bracket. So I could release it here. Maybe that's what I'll do. Okay, so next I'm going to remove the bolt that's holding that little bracket in place right there, and that's so that I can spin the battery. I'm unable to lift it straight up because of this, and the only other option would be to remove this coolant reservoir, which I don't want to do. Now the manual doesn't say anything about this, okay? But I think that's the most logical approach. So we're going to remove that bracket bolt right there. The bracket comes right out. Alright, so let's try to install the new battery. Basically, we're going to reverse the process here, okay? Obviously, I'm standing on something because the truck sits so high and the battery is quite heavy, alright? Certainly went in easier than the old one came out. And I installed a H7. If you're looking for the battery type, obviously different manufacturers have their own sort of numbering system, but this is a Walmart battery, H7. I wanted the AGM, but they didn't have any, okay? Let's go ahead and install that bracket. Alright, incidentally, this was a 1/2-inch bolt also. The bolt head was 1/2 inch. That holds this bracket on, and the same with the battery tray clip as well. Now with this bracket, I'm just going to kind of put it on there. I may need to actually leave it a little bit loose because we want to make sure that it lines up with the cross member and then tighten it down after. So I'm just going to go finger tight with it right now. Alright. This, on the other hand, we can tighten right down. Alright. So this is going to sit over the lip of the battery. Make sure that your battery is snug against this side of the battery tray. Alright, so at this point we can bring the mega fuse box, is what they call it, back over. Actually, that bracket is kind of in the way. Should have left that off. And that's because I have another video where I installed a light bar on this here, and I didn't leave myself really enough slack to get up and over that bracket, so it's my own wire that's causing the issue. It's right there, if you can see it. Alright, I'm going to clip this back down over the battery, just like that. Alright, now this one came down here, and that was a 1/2 inch, I believe. Cooking with gas here. And those of you who watch my videos, you know I tend to over-tighten things on occasion. No need to over-tighten these, especially the battery terminals. Alright, now we've got the positive battery terminal, and we'll hook that up first. And again, the reason we do the positive terminal first is because if we had the ground connected and I'm leaning up against the truck, I essentially touch this positive terminal and ground myself out. It's not a fun time. You could also do it with the tools, you know, swing the ratchet around and hit a piece of metal. So if you do the, on reconnection, if you do the negative, positive first rather, upon removal you do the negative first. Alright. And that one was a 9/16, I believe. So hopefully this video has been helpful. I know, you know, I had a conversation with somebody just yesterday actually about, you know, people replacing their own battery and so forth, you know, it's not quite as straightforward as it used to be. You know, they've got things in the way. They've got a mega fuse box now, and just snug that down. We'll get our 10 millimeter here. I'm just going to give that a little, just going to wind that down till it's snug also. It doesn't have to be super tight, especially on these types of terminals, or terminal connectors, I guess. Alright. And what we'll do now is put our cover on. Okay, make sure it's on really well. 10 millimeter. I do like how they've angled these connections up to make it easier to get a wrench in on. Okay, no need to go crazy with that. Alright, let's put our cross brace on. I'm just going to do everything finger tight and then tighten it all down with a ratchet. Alright, so let's get this thing lined up and installed. And we'll be done. Then I'll start the windows in the power steering are no big deal. You basically roll the windows up and down all the way. Power steering, you start the vehicle and you know, turn the wheel in each direction all the way. So it's kind of calibrating the electronic power steering. The PCM, the Powertrain control module, is a little bit different. It has a little sequence of just driving for like 20 minutes, coming back, letting it idle. So I'm going to post that down below because I don't think you guys want to go for a ride with me for 20 minutes today. You might. It's a nice day out, but I appreciate everyone taking the time to watch this video. If you liked it, found it helpful, please give me that thumbs up. And if you want to see more of this type of stuff and you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, alright? So at this point, I'm just going to go through, tighten these three, plus the one we left loose down here, and I'm done, alright? Thanks for watching, have a great day, and have fun.